Welcome back. It is Colts Corner with myself, Kevin Bowen, Eddie Garrison alongside. We are in the week of the offseason where the Colts rookies will show up to the facility later this week. Rookie minicamp, so we'll get a glimpse at the 2025 draft class, undrafted class as well. I don't know of too many big pressing injuries. Sometimes you have guys that just don't participate due to lingering injuries. Justin Wally, dealt with broken wrist, so maybe he would be hindered in some way. I know DJ Giddens talked about a bit of a hand issue as well. So, maybe a couple of those. But for the most part, I think a decent bill of health for the Colts rookies here are upcoming. So we'll talk about that on next week's pod. Today, the annual projecting of rookie playing time. How much will this class play here in 2025? We'll also throw in a clip, or I should say a good chunk of an interview with Jack Doyle, former Colts tight end, of course, the multi-Pro Bowler. And we'll catch up with him and what he liked about Tyler Warren and what life is up to for the Doyle family, father of 3. Eddie Garrison, how are you, sir?
I'm great. How about those Pacers?
Pacers playing great ball. Boy, if that was your first glimpse into the Indiana Pacers last year from a national standpoint, Game 1 of that Cavs series, you saw pace, you saw balance, and you saw ball movement. They can shock you in all 3 of those ways, and it was on full display. So, yeah, big time there. Big time yesterday. Great balance. If I said who the best Pacer player was yesterday, I think you'd have a hard time convincing me seriously of one answer over the others. I just think that's how they play. Neesmith, terrific. Nemhard, outstanding. Halliburton. Matherin, a big 3 there, late third quarter. Turner, a big 3 at the end of the third quarter buzzer.
Matherin also with a big block, too.
Matherin, big block. Yeah, on DeAndre Hunter as well. They certainly sent a message to Cleveland, and they better hope Darius Garland's big toe gets healthy in a hurry.
All right, Kevin, let's dive into it with the rookie playing time projections for the Indianapolis Colts. This will be available at 1075thefan.com soon. So how this works is, if you're a regular listener and you listen yearly, you know how this works. Based off a 1 to 10 scale, 1 being lucky to make the roster, 10 being a definitive full-time starters. How we rank these, we will go through each of the Colts draft selections from the 2025 class, starting with their first-round pick, Tyler Warren.
Hard to go anywhere other than, 9-10? I mean, it seems like just an absolute given. Sometimes when you get the rookie tight end, okay, will that rookie tight end, 3 down wise, can they impact on all of those downs? And I don't think you have those questions with him. And again, Penn State, as we know, used him in many, many ways. Inline, split out, even out wide, way out wide. They did that occasionally in short yardage where they would throw him out wide, try to get him on, kind of a poor tackling corner, and then boom, 3rd and 2. That corner doesn't make the tackle, and he picks up 3 or 4 yards. So, obviously, you do rotate a good amount at tight end, but he's going to be the lead guy here. So, I would be stunned, Eddie Garrison, if Tyler Warren was not the leading snap guy at the tight end position and, starting, 17 games.
I'm surprised you didn't just go flat out 10.
I know. I should have. I do probably, I cop out a little bit with this. I try to throw in kind of multiple numbers just because, some of these positions, we'll get to, JT Tuimoloau out right here, you do rotate a little bit. Even at tight end, weirdly, it's like the whole starting mechanism can kind of be skewy. I remember Joe Wrights has shared the story before. Joe Wrights has started as a jumbo tight end a couple times in a game, so it goes down as a start for him. When in reality, he's like, dude, I played 5 snaps the whole game. We just happened to open up in the jumbo package, and so that counted as a start. But yes, 9-10, that's the highest grade I think I'd give. So Tyler Warren, there you go.
Do you think Mo Alley Cox sees a regular number of snaps? Is it we're going to play Mo 15, 20 snaps a game, and that's pretty much where he's going to vary, and Tyler gets all the other snaps, or how do you think that's going to look?
Yeah, it's a great question. Honestly, when I did this exercise, I found my brain going more there. How much is Ogletree going to play? How much is Will Mallory going to play? How much is Mo Alley Cox going to play? And then, obviously Jelani Woods still is on the roster. I would assume, just given the blocking element to Alley Cox, and you know this full well, Eddie, there will be a handful of times all season Mo Alley Cox will get targeted and or catch a pass, and you're going to be like, wow, I kind of forgot he was around.
And it'll be on a 4th down.
And it'll be a big play. Yeah, it'll be a big play in the game. You diagram something up where Warren is the decoy, and then boom, there's Alley Cox kind of slipping out the backside. of it there. So, yeah, tight end playing time behind Warren remains to be seen, but yeah, I'd probably go there.
Now, I didn't ask you that question to stall to, practice over here with the mic off of how to say JT Tuimoloau. But where do you have him on your 1 to 10 scale for rookie playing time, the second round selection for Indianapolis?
Yeah, I'm gonna go like 6 or 7 here. When you start to name the DNs, Eddie, Kwity Paye, Samson Ebukam, Tuimoloau, Tyquan Lewis, Latu. That's 5. Now, again, Ebukam off the Achilles, is Latu a 3-down guy. Tuimoloau is making obviously the transition to the NFL. Tyquan, unfortunately has dealt with some injuries as well. So you rotate a ton here. So it's probably not going to look like, 17 starts, 17. Like, I don't know if I say that, but he should be a guy that you feel comfortable turning to on any down, which again is a question mark when you're projecting some of these rushers into the NFL. Chris Ballard has said something before too with Tuimoloau of like, we feel like power to speed rushers translate a little bit better to the NFL. And if you look at his draft history, that's kind of where he has gone. Paye being a certain, example of that. I was listening to Rick Venturi on the Colts Audio Network. He had an interesting NFL comp. I kind of had mentioned a little bit of Kwity Paye with, I think, a little bit more there, actually. Rick Venturi threw out George Karlaftis, and I like that comp.
Yeah.
I can kind of see that. Karlaftis was late round 1, so not that much different than Tuimoloau, but I can kind of see that as well. Again, maybe not the outright individual edge rusher that you would dream of, but can he kind of clean up? Can he do some of the dirty work? Can he stunt a little bit? Can he slide inside? Just a really kind of sound high floor guy. I know that doesn't sound uber sexy, but that's kind of how I envision him.
He's just a guy who's got like a relentless motor, and he's always going to try to find a way to make a play on the football.
Yes. Yep.
Like when the play breaks down, he's usually the guy who's finishing it off when the quarterback's scrambling, trying to find an avenue to get rid of the ball, or he's just trying to get out of the pocket. He's going to be the guy that's right there to make the play. I saw that a lot when he was with the Ohio State Buckeyes, especially down the stretch last season when they were making their national title run. Now, I'm going to ask you this. In comparison to Samson Ebukam, as you just mentioned, and Kwity Paye, could you make the case that along with Tuimoloau, those 3 guys will probably be in the 6 to 7 playing time range, and you're probably expecting or hoping that Latu is playing almost every down?
Yeah, I guess I'm still a little bit with Latu. Like, is he indeed playing every down? And let me be clear, I don't think it's the end of the world if he's not playing every down. I mean, if he is not playing every down, but yet all of a sudden you can have a 12 sack and, a high pressure guy, like, I'm good with that. I get the idea of like rotating, especially at that position, and you do have a handful of bodies. So I also thought Latu made a couple plays against the run last year that maybe I didn't necessarily see from him. So it'll be interesting to watch how this group kind of parses down their playing time. And when you think about Dio Dengbo losing all those snaps, it seems like this group will kind of be where a lot of that comes from, even though he certainly played on the interior some.
Last week on Query and Company, the show that I produced, Kev, we had Justin Wally on the show. Did you happen to catch that interview at all?
I did.
Very energetic guy.
He's a fun personality.
That is for sure. He's the 3rd round pick for the Colts, and presumably the future slot corner. Kenny entering the second to last year of his contract extension he just signed, was that 2 years ago, Kev?
Yeah, he under contract through 2026 for Kenny Moore. So, yes, I do think down the road a little bit of that with Wally, but that's not necessarily there this year. So what does that look like?
Yeah.
I went 4-5 with him. This one I probably have the most uncertainty on. Like, I've heard people say, hey, was this kind of a luxury pick? And let me be clear, there's no such thing as a luxury pick at a premium position. I mean, I firmly believe that, unless, the Chiefs are taking a quarterback in round 1. But I really don't think that there's such a thing there. Now, cornerback pick wasn't a must. I didn't have it in my positional mock, and given his size, it's certainly an Chris Ballard draft pick, but clearly Ballard loved him. I don't know if you caught the With the Next Pick series or the behind the scenes.
He said he's going to be mad if he didn't draft that guy.
Yeah, he's like, I'm going to be in a bad mood if we don't draft this guy. So,
you think it's the character that Chris Ballard fell in love with the most? And just how tough he is when he plays on the field?
Yeah, I'd say probably more the latter. I don't want to act like Justin Wally had bad character by any means. Sure, there is some personality that you gravitate towards, and I think that matters at corner. I do. I think
you mentioned the wrist injury. He did go through his pro day with the whole cast on.
Part of me, it's like, all right, Chris, you're overhyping a little bit of a dude running a 40-yard dash with a cast on his wrist. It's like, okay, it's a nice feat, but that shouldn't be, why you push that guy to the top of your board or however you want to describe it. But, I think I'll share something that I shared on draft night. When Wally was drafted, I tweeted out, this is definitely an anti-Chris Ballard pick given the height, and another NFL assistant on the defensive side of the ball said, hey, we really liked Wally. Love his twitchiness, love his instincts, super competitive. And I shared it last week. I'm not the anti-hype guy that I think a lot of people are. Like, I tend to think those little corners, they're like little gnats, man. They they can kind of just stick to you. And yes, they might not get up there and make a play, up on the top of the ladder, but they'll compete and make things difficult for you. It's like sometimes in an NBA game, you see a shorter defender matched up on a bigger guy, and if he can kind of get in your grill a little bit, you almost get more frustrated with those guys because they're such a pest to you, and you probably treat them like a little bit of little brother syndrome. But again, I ask, where is Wally playing? Javarius Ward is an obvious one. Kenny Moore in the slot. I think Jalen Jones has earned the right to be the starter walking into camp. And maybe even a ring above that or a rung above that. I don't want to undersell Jalen Jones either. But certainly, Eddie, you've been exposed to the cornerback depth chart before. And so, having some depth there, I think, is important. But, he's a 4-year starter in the Big Ten, and that's what all these guys are. I mean, when you think about it, all these guys have some college resumes, so I don't think there's a lot of projects in this draft class.
And not to say that Kenny's old, but he is 29, turning 30.
Sure.
So, I mean, it always seems like a matter of time sometimes, especially with guys like Kenny, who have been extremely healthy over their course of their career.
Yeah, I don't know if last year was I wouldn't call it like peak Kenny, but I also don't think, I make the golf analogy every podcast, I don't think it's 17th, 18th tee. He might be on 14 or 15, but I still think there's a little bit left there, from a golf analogy standpoint, how many holes are left on his career.
All right, let's get to the big hog molly. That is Jalen Travis, the 4th-round pick for the Colts, who is a genius, to say the least.
Yeah, he's got quite the collegiate resume. That is an understatement. Princeton before Iowa State. Again, project, I don't want to go there, but just 1 year in the Big 12 level. So, competition-wise, I could see a little bit of, okay, there's some, stunnedness, when you get to the consistent NFL level. I look at swing tackle, which swing tackle is one of those things like you don't hear from the dude for 8 weeks, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, you need this guy to block, Myles Garrett and company for a month. It's just, it can happen very quickly. So I'll go 3-4 here. I don't see any guard competition for him. That was the question I had of if they take the college tackle, will they make the guard transition? I don't see that here. So I'll go 3-4 for Jalen Travis.
Yeah, I'm probably right there with you as well. Moving to DJ Giddens now, the 5th-round selection for the Colts, the running back. And I think this is a fascinating one, Kev, because I know you've been a big proponent and someone who's been hammering this home a lot, just the carries for Jonathan Taylor from Wisconsin to now the pros are starting to add up. And if you go back and look, in that 2020 season where he broke out and had the dominant year, or the 21 season or whatever it was, followed it up the next year, only played 11 games, and he was not healthy. And he has over 300 carries this past season. And what does that look now for next year? And does the addition of DJ Giddens, that running back room, help alleviate some of those carries off of Jonathan Taylor's plate?
Yeah, I went 5.6 for Giddens, which I would say is decently high for a day 3 running back. Again, the Khalil Herbert thing, I do feel like he's a pretty accomplished player coming over, but Giddens has some first and second down nature to him a little bit more than I thought. And so I think that is something that's worth pointing out as well. Ballard made a really interesting comp. He comped him to Marlon Mack. And it's kind of funny when I watch Giddens, I do get those Mack vibes. And I don't know, I think our Colts audience probably on this pod is dedicated and passionate enough. They will recall Marlon Mack when he was healthy. I mean, he was a pretty good player.
Marlo.
Yeah, I thought he was pretty effective. So, again, this is pre the tear of the Achilles. And, people have pointed out, too, Giddens has some make you miss on the second level, and, he's only 21 years old. So, obviously, Taylor's going to be your workhorse, going to be your bell cow, and I still think he has that. But to your point about Kenny Moore, it certainly applies to running back. When it goes, it can go. And it's just, do you start to project a little bit more moving forward of we now feel more comfortable. Did they really trust Trey Sermon and Tyler Goodson last year?
I don't think so.
Do you trust Khalil Herbert and DJ Giddens more?
TBD.
Sure. But on paper, I think I'm a little bit more intrigued by it than I was Sermon and Goodson. So how does that play out? Will be interesting.
All right, the first of 2 6th-round selections for Indianapolis. One you figure is the Sam Ehlinger replacement on the roster, and Riley Leonard.
Yeah, well, the 2-3 here for him. I expect him to make the roster, but that third quarterback, again, you could hardly hear from him. Obviously, you would go long stretches without hearing Sam Ehlinger's name, and then it was like, oh my gosh, he's one play away. So, and the thing about Leonard, when you dress a third quarterback, it has to be an emergency situation. It's not like you could even use him in the short yardage, and you obviously wouldn't, considering that Richardson and Jones both are very capable in those areas. So now, given the injury history of Richardson and probably even Daniel Jones, we shouldn't totally sleep on that. Leonard is not light years away from playing by any means. Now, Leonard's got to go take care of business with Jason Bean, and that is something that I think shouldn't be forgotten. It's that Leonard has some competition there in Bean, and Bean, I thought, played pretty well last year in the preseason. But I go back to the Ballard old adage, at some point you have to operate from the pocket. Well, that is probably Leonard's biggest question mark. And, I've had some people reach out to me and been like, man, you really sound critical on Leonard. There is I will give you the fan hat. When you watch every single snap, and I live in a very emotional world with Notre Dame, I apologize for that. There probably is a little bit of hey, new offense, injury in the spring, he got banged up during the season, give him a little benefit of the doubt. So yes, I'll go there, but I'll also counter with that and say he plays the most important position in sports. His character, people you dream of to marry your daughter. He can make plays with his legs. He's tough as hell. He led Notre Dame to the college football national championship, and he fell to pick 189. You don't fall to pick 189 with all of those boxes checked at quarterback if you aren't a very poor thrower of the football. And that's what he is. Mm-hmm. So where and how does he grow with likely limited reps in Indy?
What did you think of his assessment of saying that he feels like he's at his best when it's the 2-minute drill?
Yeah, I know. I mean, obviously the Ohio State game, they made a huge comeback, largely with his arm, to be fair. But I don't know if I recall many other moments, Eddie, where I would believe that, to be honest with you. I mean, for those that weren't, again, totally locked into Notre Dame's season, he threw some huge second half, fourth quarter interceptions in one-possession games against Penn State, against USC, against Northern Illinois. I mean, the Northern Illinois pass, I thought he was punting the ball. I thought it was one of those third down punts that you do.
Yeah.
So, again, my hand's raised, guys. I'm sorry. I'm speaking a lot as a fan, but I'm also trying to put on my, all right, why is he there at 189? When he does so much stuff great. Mm-hmm. The character, the toughness, the dual threat. He's big. It's not like he's 6'1", no. He's 6'4" and 220 or 215. He's got so much you would want to mold. And that's probably what enticed the Colts, but, also 31 other teams passed for 188 picks for a reason.
The other sixth-round pick for the Colts was Tim Smith, defensive tackle out of Alabama. I'm curious to see where you go for his playing time, KB, just because there are already so many bodies in that defensive line room already. Perhaps maybe the Taven Bryan replacement here, but I know they could at least slide Taven Bryan outside a little bit.
Yeah, I went 3-4, which, for a day 3, round 6 pick, I don't think is that. I actually think it's a little bit of a compliment. I'll say this about Hunter Wooler, too, and we get to him in round 7, Eddie. For a second to last pick, Tim Smith of the Colts draft class, and for the last pick of the Colts draft class, Hunter Wooler, they both walked into good depth chart situations. I hear you out in that the Colts D-line room has a lot of bodies. I'd argue they have a lot more bodies at end than they do interior. When you think of their interior bodies, Grover and Buckner are now getting up there in age, one more year. What's behind them? Neville Gallimore?
Mm-hmm.
I keep on forgetting that Adetamua Adebare is on the roster. He's still around, but like true kind of nose backup, which I think Tim Smith's got that, the body type, a little bit more there. So I don't know, 10, 12 snaps. You said Taven Bryan. I might go Raekwon Davis on you. Just like a little bit more of that.
I thought more so from like the roster number, not the position, just because of Neville Gallimore to me was probably more the Raekwon Davis replacement immediately.
See, I look at Gallimore more like Taven Bryan, and we're splitting hairs here. Tim Smith a little bit more is like that kind of, one technique sort of backup. But again, for a day 3 pick, you walk into this depth chart, and especially Wooler here, you would dream of that. Because a lot of times you get to the end of it, you're like, hey, just make me undrafted at this point. Let me pick where I can go.
Right. Now let's get to Hunter Wooler. He was a safety at Wisconsin, the 7th-round pick for the Colts. He will be making the transition to linebacker. He was on Corey and Company with us last week, and he said when he was down in the Senior Bowl, he was working with one of the coaches for the Colts. I can't remember which one. I don't think it was Cato June. But they had him practice a little bit at linebacker at the Senior Bowl, and that's where they kind of liked what they saw from him, and they decided to use the 7th-round pick on him.
Yeah, and you look at linebacker, I would argue that is the lightest depth chart of anything on the roster. Zaire Franklin's indispensable, and Jalen Carlisle is way too indispensable for how little he played as a rookie. So there is definitely, and one thing to kind of look at linebacker and also think back to safety and corner, and Justin Wally falls into this too, Eddie. Lou Anarumo is going to play a lot of sub packages. So you get out of your mind the traditional days of 4-3. And even the Colts, I thought, played a little bit more 4-3 under Gus Bradley. But I think there'll be a lot of 2 and even some 1 linebacker personnel groupings out on the field. But, whether it's special teams, whether it's defense, Wooler walks into a good situation. Think back to last year. Jonah Lualu was the 7th-round pick out of Oklahoma, D tackle. Well, he didn't have a prayer of penetrating for playing time. With the defensive tackle group. It's different here with Wooler in the 7th round as well. And unlike a lot of 7th round picks, especially for the Colts lately, very accomplished player at Wisconsin leading the team in tackles for a couple of years. So I'll go 2-3, but it's, a lot of times I've got 1-2 on these guys, just lucky to make the team, but I could kind of see a little bit more on that.
So this will be available once again for more content. 1075thefan.com if you wish to read what Kevin had to say in writing. Of course, you can always share your opinions by dropping a comment in the YouTube video, or you can send Kevin a tweet at kbowen1070. Kev, are you ready to get into Twitter questions?
Should we go with Jack Doyle here?
Oh, good call. I forgot about Doyle rules.
The one, the only, the legend. Shout out to RJ Winger. Shout out to the east side of Indianapolis. Shout out to the Holy Spirit Rams. Jack Doyle, an excellent rugby player in college as well. Big Pacer fan. Jack Doyle here. Some thoughts on Tyler Warren, a little life update with the Colts tight end.
Jack, you were saying how you want your kids to play a certain way or be a certain way. I don't know if you were haven't watching John Riggins' film just yet as far as, the way Tyler Warren plays and what his dad did for him to pivot a little bit to the Colts. What do you think of the addition of that tight end and the way he plays the game?
Yeah, I mean, he's awesome, man. I love the way it just kind of all worked out for the Colts, right? And he just kind of fell to us. And I know that was their guy going into it. I mean, I'm assuming, right? They don't ask me anything, but I'm assuming that was their guy going into it, and he's just a stud, man. He can do it all, and obviously I'm biased to the tight end position. I don't think he can have enough. But just the versatility, right? I mean, being able to get in there and block and using multiple tight ends, I'm a big fan of that, and making the defense choose, are we going to go base and try and stop, their run game with Jonathan, or, are we going to go nickel and then you can run the ball, right? If they're in nickel personnel, if they go base, we can throw the ball, and we got linebackers on tight ends, so I think it's a huge, and it simplifies the game for the quarterback and for everybody else.
It's the voice of Jack Doyle, certainly the two-time Pro Bowler, the pride of the Holy Spirit East Side there. Shout out to RJ Wingers, Jack Doyle with us.
Oh, yeah.
On the Payless Liquors hotline. I felt, and again, I mean, obviously you're a busy man, but I felt like when I watched Penn State this year, Jack, like the amount of ways they utilized him really stood out to me. I mean, certainly that Orange Bowl against Notre Dame, I obviously was really locked into. And I felt like there were times he was just throwing some Notre Dame defenders out of the club. And I'm like, damn, I'm not used to dudes doing that. Like that versatility and, I don't know, a little Gronk aspect to like his physicality. I know that's probably a bit of a high praise, maybe too high praise. That just stood out to me so much when watching him at Penn State.
Yeah, I mean, it was same here, Kevin. It was so impressive. Just the balance and the after the catch, right? I mean, that's what impressed me the most. Obviously he's everywhere, versatility, and they did a great job at Penn State to put him in different spots to be successful. And then he went and made plays, right? And, just being able to carry a guy 5 yards and stumble forward for another 7, that's an extra first down is the way I look at it, that your team doesn't have to convert. And I think that's what he can be for the Colts, and using him in play action, right? And getting some easy throws, right? I mean, that a tight end is a quarterback's best friend. We've all heard that saying, and I think a tight end can really help get a quarterback in rhythm, right, and build confidence.
What's the biggest adjustment Tyler Warren is going to have to make coming into the National Football League as a tight end now?
Yeah, I think blocking. He's a great blocker, but every tight end I've seen come in, it's a big jump from college to the NFL. I mean, the guys on the edge in the NFL are just different, right? And, there's a reason they're paid the way they're paid. They're probably the best, pure athlete on the field, right? And so, yeah, that's a big jump. But, Tyler's in good hands. Tom Manning, he's a heck of a tight ends coach. And, he does a great job emphasizing blocking. He's an old lineman, Mountain Union, guy. And he doesn't play with tight ends who don't block, right? He wants you guys to put your face in there, and he's going to do a great job of getting them, getting the technique work with them, and he'll grow into that, a great blocker real soon.
Jack, last one from me. Obviously, you play professional football, but is there a part of you when you watch a game like that last night that you're thinking, man, if I'd have worked on my jump a little bit more, I could have been out there?
Yeah, no, my jumper was never going to be.
Did we lose him?
I don't know. He went away.
Oh, Jack, come back.
He's gone.
Jack, come back. But no, that was Jack Doyle joining us on the Payless Liquors hotline. Obviously, great to hear from him. Stays around still in the Indianapolis area.
Little League action last night.
Yeah, I mean, that was
Busy
the
guy.
most. He's right, though. Okay. If you skipped the first half, you enjoyed it. So, he's still there.
James, how about you re-ask it to Jack?
All right, yeah, well, Jack, just check in. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you guys good. Sorry, I went out to my garage, so you guys.
Oh, no worries, no worries.
Screaming 2-year-old.
But like I said, did you go in the driveway last night and think, man, I could have been out there?
Yeah, no. those basketball guys are different, man. I mean, the shot making and just like you watch an NBA player just warm up, and you're like, you just got to be mesmerized, but by the shot making, it's just incredible. What those guys can do and the athletes they are. But yeah, it's to your point, James, it's games like that. Like, man, I miss it. I miss, the 5 minutes in the locker room after a game and celebrating with your guys who you're putting the work in with, that's what makes it so fun. All the hard work they put in and to close a series out in a game like that. I mean, it just doesn't get better.
Jack, did you happen to catch the Colts video yesterday of them going over to Hinkle and having a little shooting competition? Did you see that on social?
Oh, no, I didn't see it. So that's awesome. Yeah, probably a little. Yeah, was it? They're all together now, right? And
Yeah.
phase one probably. So yeah, they probably just did a little fun thing, a little team building, right?
It looked like Drew Ogletree was one of the better shooters on the team, and I bring that up to say I feel like the few times that went into an NBA or an NFL locker room during the open media sessions, I don't think there was more of a debate, usually from T.Y. Hilton, on who the best basketball player was in the locker room. Is that a top 3 debate inside of an NFL locker room?
Yeah,
who the best basketball player is?
I would say top 1. And it's funny now that I know Drew Ogletree won. Mo Alley Cox will be getting a text from me immediately after this conversation, because you can't be he's got the pressure, right, and the expectations, right, of being the college basketball guy. So yeah, I don't know. Does Drew have a basketball background?
I think he does. James, he had a little bit, didn't he? He started at Youngstown State,
high school,
and
typical.
I mean,
okay.
Not to Mo's extent, but obviously he's got a little background.
Yeah, well, that's fun. Yeah, well, yeah, we kept it in the tight end room, so I love that.
Jack, we'll end with this, and thank you for the time. Obviously, you mentioned the 2-year-old. You mentioned the Little League Baseball. I get asked quite often from people, what's Jack Doyle up to with his time here? You are still calling Indy home. I know a little bit of coaching here recently, but update our audience, if you don't mind, on just what life is like for Jack Doyle.
Yeah, it's great, man. Like I said, we got 3 young kids, 2 boys and a girl, and that's organized chaos, I call it. But yeah, I'm actually going to take a physical education job at a local school here where my kids go to school, and be teaching gym a couple days a week for middle school kids. So say
sports lifer.
Say a quick prayer for me and handling teenagers. But it's going to be. I'm super excited. It's going to be a ton of fun. So starting in the fall, and then we'll continue helping coaching and been helping at Cathedral and doing things like that. Just little things here and there, but most importantly, just trying to be a present dad. That's what's most important to me, and having a ton of fun and enjoying life.
Students versus staff, you getting in on that?
Yeah, there is a big volleyball game, so I need to go hone in. My mom was a great volleyball player, so she'll be. Maybe I'll go do some drills in the backyard with her. So.
Well, those kids are lucky to have you, to say the least. Jack, thanks for the time, man. Great to catch up with you a couple weeks ago, and certainly good luck to our Pacers here down the stretch.
Yeah, thanks, guys. You guys do a great job. I enjoy listening. Thanks, guys.
How much would you love having Jack Doyle as your PE teacher, Eddie Garrison?
I would love it. Do you think he still has the big bushy beard?
I don't know if he's gone full. At one point, it looked like he could hatch some eggs in that beard. I don't think we're full there.
He looked like the caveman from those. Was that Geico? No.
Well, I'm picturing the Pittsburgh defensive lineman, Van Kissel. Is that right? Brett something or other? Does that ring a bell at all?
No.
Yeah, I could be really off on that. Maybe I shouldn't have said that out loud, but nonetheless, shout out to Jack Doyle, legend, unbelievable career. I mean, he was not some star-studded recruit exiting high school either. Played at Western Kentucky, and the rest is history. Can you imagine playing for your hometown team for all those years?
Jack Doyle didn't do what I would do, what I just did a whole lot, and that was false start. You ready for Twitter questions now?
Let's do them.
Got a handful to get to, starting with Drew and Aaron. With the draft pick of Tyler Warren, will the Colts implement some type of wild Colt package and line Warren up at quarterback?
Yes, 1,000%. Yep. I mean, if I had to say right now, Eddie, if you asked me, hey, Kevin, what do you think the greatest strength of the 2025 Colts will be?
Their run game probably again, right?
I might even go a little deeper. They're like short yardage, goal to go running.
Felt like that was an area they struggled in last year, too.
I know. But with Taylor, Richardson, and/or Jones, Warren, I mean, you can put Allie Cox in the backfield for all I care. Like, yeah, I I think it can be such a great strength for them. So Shane Steichen would be absolute malpractice by the Colts not to explore some of that with more. Lefty, by the way, if he's going to throw it, keep an eye out.
Southpaw?
Keep an eye out for it. Little lefty action there.
And that's a little different coming off the fingers, Kevin.
Indeed it is.
And we got do we need to break that down from a fundamental standpoint?
Some might say he's the most accurate quarterback currently on the
Colts. Next is Craig. What the heck is the plan for linebacker? This seems like a few years ago when Chris Ballard neglected the offensive line depth, and it ultimately killed the Colts.
Well, that's a great question. It goes back to Anarumo maybe not playing as much. Carlisle is, you got to pencil him in as that too. I guess a Luby would maybe be next up there. And I'll continue to say this. Zaire Franklin's indispensability is through the roof right now with your makeup. So, does Anarumo feel the need to cover up a little bit? But, I'd have to look at the schedule closer. I don't, the Derrick Henry days of the AFC South might be a little bit different, or Jacksonville running all over you might be a little different, but I am definitely worried about linebacker. Even though it's not, I don't think it's like the most premium sort of position, but to me it screams like a May signing. A lot of people brought up Jermaine Pratt with the Bengals. It does seem like something along those lines is necessary. I know Franklin's been super durable throughout his career, but still.
Now, you just hinted at, the days of Jacksonville running all over you. Is that because now you have a little bit of a worry of how they'll look in terms of defending the run with how light they are at linebacker?
Yeah, I just think they're light enough. Like, if I were coming to play the Colts today, obviously I think I'd want to test out what a secondary would look like, but still, more than that, I'd probably just say, hey, what's at that second level? Because I know your linebackers struggled last year. Like, I didn't think Franklin was this peak of an all-pro either.
Mm-mm.
So I don't, that's an area where I think you just need some bolstering. You need a big jump from Carlisle and those other guys, Cameron Grown and Liam Anderson, and I'm sure I'm forgetting others. We haven't really seen them.
DeQuell Jackson.
At all either. Well, that's certainly going back. Yeah.
Tanner says, I may be grasping at straws, but also biased thinking based off of what I've heard about Anthony Richardson, but in watching Riley Leonard sit down with John Gruden, one of the first things that was brought up was the fact that there's a lot of personal connections between Riley Leonard and Daniel Jones. He's also from the same area as Phillip Rivers and trains with him. Feel free to call me crazy, but is there a world where AR is on the team week 1 and we roll with Indiana Jones and Riley Leonard?
Oh boy. Indiana Jones does have a decent ring to it. Are you good with Dan Jones?
No, that's an expressway.
Yeah, one that doesn't move very fast, right?
Yeah.
Unlike this Dan Jones. No, I can't see it at all. Leonard needs to grow. Yeah, an outright cut of Richardson, I guess it'd be a trade before the season starts. I can't see it. Eddie, is this a crazy thought? And call me an idiot if you feel the need.
Well, I always call you an idiot, so I don't have to feel the need.
Is it better to lose the starting quarterback battle if you're Richardson or Jones? And you immediately become the most popular person in town?
That's fascinating.
And if you then get the reins, now all of a sudden that starter's got major scar tissue. You've got the blank slate. And if you're able to have just a drop of success, people will overreact to it like no other.
See, I think the blank slate only comes into play if it's Daniel Jones being the backup. I don't think the slate is a blank if Anthony loses it just because it
hasn't happened here.
That, and he's the former 4th overall pick. They had these high expectations for him. He's the guy that should have the upper hand with knowing the offense and being able to be the day one starter immediately because of his familiarity with Shane Steichen, Steichen's familiarity with him, all his teammates and wide receivers' familiarity with Richardson. And if Richardson loses that battle, then I'm not sure how that would look from, just from a confidence standpoint for him and how he would look and feel mentally if he were to go out there in training camp and OTAs and mandatory minicamp and lose the job.
Yeah, no, that is a good point. Boy, it's just wild. How many quarterback battles? What was Jones, 6 overall? How many quarterback battles do you think you have between the 4th and 6th overall picks in drafts?
That's probably very rare.
Rare.
Probably the upper quartile of upper quartiles.
Rare. coachers, they say.
That's right. 2 questions left. That golf guy states, now that the draft is over, if Chris Ballard would address one more position of need by either adding from another team's roster cuts or a current free agent, what position would you want that to be, Kev? And I'm sure you're going to say linebacker, so I'm going to remove that from your potential answer.
Well, what about guard?
Yeah.
What about safety? I mean, if you look at safety depth chart too, it's pretty light there.
Mm-hmm.
Guard would be the one. Like, you're a lot. I mean, right now, Gonzalez. I know you maybe at like Dalton Tucker, Danny Pinter. I mean, you might have a little bit more at guard, but it is interesting when you think of who are the biggest winners of the draft. Winners and losers of the draft. I did an article up 1075thefan.com. You can check that out. Gonzalez and Carlisle are both winners.
Mm-hmm.
Carlisle, we saw him make the position switch, right?
Yes.
And started 5 games.
Mm-hmm.
Gonzalez, we've yet to see it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's largely a position switch. When you look at it, I mean, he barely trained at guard last year. No, he did a little bit more in college, but he was much more a tackle at Pittsburgh. And remember, a foot injury sidelined him for 3 games his senior year at Pittsburgh. Sidelined him to play just 3 games. So, that probably isn't maybe being talked about enough. I do think it's all of his body type, and when I watch him, I think a little bit more of, okay, I can see a little bit more guard in him, whereas some guys, you see a little bit more tackle bodies. But if you take linebacker off the board, I definitely would go guard, and then I'd probably put safety second. Yeah.
I'd probably agree with you there.
Something on the D-line would probably be next one.
Could just make the case guard in general, to specifically be right guard either, because, I mean, you've got Nelson, and then after him, I'm looking around like Will Smith and Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I'm in the empty room, and it's like, where is everybody?
Right, and I mean, if you did who are your 6th, 7th, and 8th offensive linemen right now, I mean, it's some sort of Jalen Travis, Danny Pinter, Wesley French, maybe, or Dalton Tucker. Yeah, it's just you could probably go there. And I might be speaking for all 32 teams, frankly.
Is Pinter and French your swing inside guy? Like,
that's kind of how I look at it now. I mean, they've acted like
center and guard.
They've acted like Pinter's competing, with Bordolini at center. But Dalton Tucker too. I mean, he did start a lot last year at right guard, but then it really went off the board after that.
Yeah. Final Twitter question is from Eli. Love the pod, and I know you love Notre Dame, so I have to ask, what are the odds of Riley Leonard winning this starting job this year or next?
God, some of these Leonard questions, man. Oh, boy. Well, this year would be, 0, right?
You would hope.
Without, unless an injury occurs, it would be literally 0%. Next year, I don't know. Maybe I should give it a little bit more of a percentage point there because, Jones's contract situation is a 1-year deal, and Richardson, who knows on that? Sorry, big yawn there.
I was like, did your brain fall asleep?
Yeah, I know. Hopefully people didn't think that was the end of the podcast. Am I underselling Riley Leonard, Eddie?
I don't think so. I don't think so at all. I didn't like him in the pre-draft process outside of his toughness and his, character.
There is a lot. Okay, let me give this to Leonard. I think there's a lot to work with, like character-wise and like skill set, again, size and speed and skill set and all that. Where I might have the biggest Leonard question is where and how does he grow?
Mm-hmm.
Like reps. Like if you had, let's say you had
being the scout team quarterback,
right? Again, you can't just grow. No. He's not running your offense. He's not working on like his 3-step drop. He's trying to mimic the other guy. I don't know. Maybe if you had like Mahomes and he was about ready to miss like 4 months of the offseason due to some injury, and you had 100-some reps, 200-some reps that were going to be divvied up on your quarterback depth chart, maybe he would impact a little bit there. But I don't know. I don't see where that growth can occur. And shout out to Riley Leonard. We'll probably play the interview with him maybe on next week's podcast, Eddie, because we had him on our morning show. And I asked him, operating from the pocket, specifically where do you need to grow? And yeah, that footwork at times I think just got a bit choppy. If you go back, as much as the Ohio State comeback was huge, go back and watch he puts his body on the line on the first drive, right?
Yep.
Right down the field score. Go back and watch the next couple drives and the layups he missed to keep that offense afloat. Like, so much of that game snowballed because you couldn't stop Ohio State. You also couldn't get a first down. What would a first down or two have done for your team, for your defense, et cetera, et cetera? So, yeah. All right, anything else, man?
So we've got the rookie playing time, or the projection for the rookie playing time coming out, 1075thefan.com. What else you got coming out, Kevin?
Yeah, again, I'll be at rookie minicamp later this week, so we'll be out there for that. I've got my first depth chart.
That starts Friday, right?
Friday, yep. I've got my first depth chart for 2025 up on the site right now. So if you want to check that out, feel free. Got some takeaways in there on what a potential depth chart would look like in the spring. So that is up on the site. And we will continue to pump out the content. But yeah, I'll be out there on Friday.
All right. Well, you have fun out there at West 56th Street, and hopefully the Colts give you something to write about.
He is Eddie Garrison. I'm Kevin Bowen. Everybody have a great, great week. We'll talk to you next time. Colts Corner with Kevin Bowen.